Psychtown in the Yuli's kingdom bustles with activity under a gray sky.
People go about their daily lives in the town's stone alleyways while a hooded man rests against a wall.
A red-haired traveler enters a quiet tavern and requests a drink from the silent bartender. The bartender stares downward with a hollow, grief-stricken expression, seemingly lost in his own sorrow.
A blonde patron informs the newcomer that the owner is too deep in mourning to respond.
The men discuss the tragic kidnapping and murder of the owner's son by a group called Tartarus.
Talk turns to the local instability caused by a mysterious witch who has been ravaging the church. A soft patter sounds as tears fall, drawing the immediate concern of the men at the bar.
A black-haired woman in a dark cloak weeps at her table as the red-haired traveler offers comfort.
The traveler asks if she is troubled, while she remains shrouded in her heavy, tattered cloak. Nilse Glory, the black-haired woman, reveals her tear-filled purple eyes, lamenting her very nature. Her striking, tragic beauty leaves every man in the tavern completely awestruck and blushing. Nilse recounts her strange fate of inhabiting a novel as the main character, a powerful witch.
She recalls the church's betrayal, where they forced her to research immortality and killed those she loved.
In a final act of desperation, she unleashed her forbidden magic within a massive glowing circle.
The spell malfunctioned, accidentally hurling her soul back 20 years into the past.
Records show a flame-haired woman single-handedly reduced the church's research center to smoldering ruins.
The red-haired woman cries out in agony amidst the destruction she wrought upon the church.
Nilse reflects on her present life, sitting regally while drinking red wine among white roses. She finds that being a witch has perks, like conjuring piles of gold when trouble arises. Despite her power, Nilse remains consumed by a deep, beautiful melancholy that never seems to fade. Her sadness manifests in exaggerated bursts, leaving her perpetually weeping over the smallest inconveniences.
A unique curse plagues her, causing her to feel uncontrollably depressed by everything she witnesses.
From falling guillotines to burning houses and even sad dogs, every tragedy spikes her depression.
Nilse stands amidst wilting vines, declaring that her life is defined by this inescapable, overwhelming gloom.
She tries to find joy in a simple walk, only to find the outside world equally bleak. Slumped over her table, she fears her second life will end simply from the weight of her depression.
A sudden, deafening bang echoes through the tavern as a massive force shatters the peace.
Nilse looks up with a weary, disinterested gaze, barely affected by the violent intrusion. A young, green-haired boy stands trembling, bound by heavy iron chains around his neck.
A giant armored boot crushes the floor as the patrons recoil in terror from the intruder.
A massive hand grips the wall, while a menacing voice speaks of punishing a disobedient soldier.
A hulking giant enters the bar, dragging the small, chained boy behind him like a trophy.
Fear ripples through the tavern as people identify the man as a brutal Tartarus training officer. The patrons whisper about the officer's cruelty and creating suicide soldiers, while a blonde boy sits nearby. The training officer erupts into a mocking, jagged laugh, reveling in the misery he causes.
He sneers at a bruised blonde boy, telling him that no one is coming to save him.
With a cruel motion, the officer throws the green-haired boy aside like a piece of trash.
Nilse watches with cold eyes, calling the men dregs while clutching a glowing, magical ember. The officer looms over the blonde boy, promising that even begging for mercy won't stop his cruelty. On the ground, the blonde boy's small hand desperately clenches a jagged pile of rocks. The officer reaches out with a shadowed hand, threatening to maim the boy for his defiance. A sharp swish sounds as the blonde boy swings a rock with unexpected, desperate speed.
The training officer recoils in shock, shouting as the boy's surprise attack sends him reeling.
Niels watches the struggle intently, the golden glow between her fingers pulsing with hidden intent.
The blonde boy lunges forward, wielding a sharpened wooden stake with a look of pure determination. A violent slam echoes as the boy drives his improvised weapon into the falling giant. The boy raises the wooden stake high, his green eyes burning with a fierce, vengeful resolve. A heavy smack sounds as the officer desperately tries to block the boy's relentless, furious assault. The officer roars a death threat, striking the boy back with a bone-jarring bang that shakes the tavern. The blonde boy lies bleeding on the cobblestones, gasping for air as his strength rapidly fades away. Looming over the child, the Tartarus officer roars a death threat, fueled by blind and murderous rage. Nils Glory steps forward, standing regally between the brutal giant and the helpless, wounded blonde boy. The officer sneers at Nilse, demanding she leave immediately rather than waste his limited time and energy. Observing his lack of mana, Nilse realizes the man is merely a low-tier threat to her power. She looks at the bleeding child, wondering if he calculated the risks before launching his desperate attack. While the officer shouts for her attention, Nilse notes the boy's lethal intent despite his young age. Nils recognizes the boy's extraordinary combat talent, recalling his significance from the world of the novel. The officer's patience snaps as he commands the witch to vanish, unaware of the doom he faces. A massive, armored hand lunges toward Nilse, intending to cast her aside with a single violent strike. With a blur of motion, Nilse severs the officer's arm, leaving the limb flying through the air. A gut-wrenching roar of agony sounds as the giant collapses, his blood staining the tavern floor. Panic erupts among the onlookers as the officer screams in pain, clutching his bleeding, empty arm socket. Stunned and broken, the officer realizes he never even saw the weapon that took his hand. He stares up at Nilse in terror, desperately asking for the identity of the monster standing before him. Horror fills the man's eyes as a chilling realization dawns on him regarding the woman's true nature. As the officer stammers out her title, Nilse prepares a final, devastating spell with a cold smile. Resplendent in golden magical energy, the witch prepares to unleash the full extent of her forbidden power. Doom! A massive explosion of light and force incinerates the area, observed by the awestruck blonde boy. Following the use of her magic, Nilse's dark hair glows with a vibrant, fiery red hue. Whispers fill the room as the survivors witness the witch's terrifying power and her striking transformation. Shrouded in smoke, the witch stands alone as the terrified crowd flees from her overwhelming presence. Melancholy consumes Nilse as she reflects on her isolation, feeling as though the darkness might devour her. A sudden, desperate cry for the mistress witch breaks through her wall of sorrow and deep reflection. The grieving man begs Nilse to save the green-haired boy, sensing the child is close to death. He looks upon the chained child, seeing a painful reflection of the young son he already lost. Tears fill the man's eyes as he pleads with the witch to prevent another senseless tragedy. Nils hesitates, knowing her destructive mana acts as a lethal poison to any normal human she heals. She looks at the suffering boy, fearing a healing spell would only cause him irreversible, agonizing damage. With a heavy heart, she informs the man that her curse prevents her from offering any salvation. A sharp scream of pain rings out, causing Nilse to weep over her inability to change fate. Shadowy manifestations of her grief pull at her, while the blonde boy reaches out with sudden determination. The blonde boy moves toward her, his presence cutting through the oppressive atmosphere of the witch's despair. Radiant golden light sparkles from the boy's hands as Nilse watches his mysterious power manifest in silence. Working together, the pair channels a miracle that causes the green-haired boy to blink back to life.
The father celebrates the miraculous recovery, while Nilse stares at the blonde child with growing suspicion. A realization strikes her as she identifies the boy as a future paladin candidate from her past life.
Rip, with a sudden, swift motion, Nilse tears the boy's collar to confirm her dark, lingering suspicions.
A distinctive six-pointed star mark is revealed on the child's chest, sealing his identity as her enemy. The witch's eyes widen in shock as she confirms that the boy is indeed her future executioner. A vision of the future reveals the child grown into a powerful paladin, the supervisor of her demise. His adult face is cold and resolute, a sharp contrast to the trembling boy standing before her. In the previous timeline, this paladin crushed Niellis' rebellion and personally brought about the witch's end.
She recalls the moment of her death, where his blade pierced her heart before she triggered time travel.
Determined to survive, Nils grips the boy's neck, intending to eliminate the threat before it can grow.
Her mind flashes back to the snow-covered forest where she once lay dying beneath his relentless blade. The phantom sensation of an armored hand covering her eyes returns, reminding her of her cold end.
She stares into the boy's green eyes, seeing the shadow of the man who once showed no mercy.
Every detail of his future self haunts her, from his cold gaze to the jewelry on his armor.
Shh.
Her finger.
Nilis crouches before the blonde boy, gently patting his head as he stares at the floor. A close-up reveals the boy's star mark as Niellis realizes she cannot bring herself to kill him. Leaning on her hand, the black-haired woman offers the child a chance to come away with her.
Bam! A few years later, a sudden, powerful shockwave interrupts Niellis during her quiet tea time. Now grown into a tall young man, the blonde boy beams with joy at seeing Miss Niellis.
He throws his arms around Niellis in a tight hug, proudly announcing his victory over a bandit group.
Comically sprouting a dog tail and ears, the young man leans in close to ask for his reward.
The scene shifts to the brick exterior of a grand hotel standing under a bright, full moon. Ding! A small bell rings outside the hotel entrance, announcing the arrival of a late-night guest.
The hotel receptionist smiles warmly while a guest dressed in a fine dark coat approaches the desk. Disguised with shorter hair, Niellis leaves the receptionist completely starstruck by her elegant and handsome appearance.
Nilise requests a room for two, while the receptionist blushes furiously at her charming presence.
Standing tall in her masculine disguise, Niellis looks down at the young blonde boy clutching a small suitcase. The young boy looks downward in silence as Niellis keeps a protective hand resting upon his head.
When asked if the child is her brother, Niellis cryptically replies that their relationship is more complicated.
Outside, soldiers pin wanted posters to a brick wall, searching for the woman with long black hair. Looking out the window, Niellis realizes they must keep moving to avoid being caught by the church.
Munch! The boy greedily stuffs pasta into his mouth with his hands, much to Niellis's visible horror. Niellis stands regally among blooming roses, her long black hair flowing as she embraces her true identity.
Patiently, Niellis guides the boy's hand, teaching him the proper way to use a fork while eating.
The boy stares at the fork before successfully stabbing his noodles with a look of pure, sparkling joy.
Sitting comfortably beneath the table, the child continues to eat his meal while Niellis watches from her chair.
Niellis looks at the boy with concern, asking if he is truly unable to speak any words. Her expression turns somber as she realizes the gravity of the situation and the boy's silence.
Thoughts of the Tartarus novel's magic parasites fill her mind, showing children trapped in mystical webbing. A vision of the boy's future self as a perfect weapon haunts Niellis as she watches him. Niellis gently cups the boy's face, her purple eyes reflecting deep worry for the child's uncertain future.
Overwhelmed by frustration and fear, Niellis suddenly erupts into a panicked scream, startling the young boy. She worries that her magic is too destructive to remove the parasite without killing the child.
Determined to find a solution, Nielis prepares to use her magical power, summoning a surge of golden energy.
With a look of hesitation, she admits she would rather not summon her familiar if it were avoidable.
Nielis calls out to Mammon, summoning a long purple staff topped with a large carved rose. The staff awakens, revealing the wrinkled face of an old woman who speaks to her mistress. Eek! The boy recoils in absolute terror, dropping his fork as the living staff suddenly starts talking. Hiss! Crouching low, the boy bares his teeth and hisses like a wild animal at the strange staff. Mammon mocks the boy's defensive reaction, comparing his behavior to how Nielis once acted in the past. Nielis stands with her companion staff, Mammon, who served as her only trusted ally through many trials. A vision of the past shows Nielis looking horrified in a forest as the staff lies abandoned. Despite their history, Nielis recalls a moment where she instinctively rejected the staff's overwhelming, dark presence. Nielis swings her arm, casting the staff into a blue magical portal and commanding it to be gone. Mammon reminds Nielis that it possesses knowledge of the story that she does not yet understand. The staff's eye narrows as it asks how it may serve its mistress in this new life. Nielis stares at the living weapon with intense suspicion, wondering if she can truly trust its motives. A cheerful title card appears, announcing the start of a special cooking class hosted by Mammon. Following the recipe, the boy washes a pink magic lizard while Nielis sautés fruit over a hot flame. Under the staff's guidance, Nielis and the boy work together to prepare a bubbling potion in a cauldron. The result is a vibrant bowl of soup, presented as the ultimate cure for the magic parasite. Both Nielis and the boy stare into the pot with blank, wide-eyed expressions, unsure of their creation. After a single bite, the boy breathes a torrent of fire, while Mammon insists the cure is working. Slaying, a sudden, jarring bolt of energy surges as the boy drops the bowl, which shatters across the floor.
Nielis stands over the blonde boy as a rough cough sounding breaks the silence of the room.
A sharp, pained sounding escapes the bleeding boy as he endures the agony of the magical procedure.
Nielis reflects on the immense pain of removing a parasite, while an unseen voice addresses her with reverence.
A loud crack sounding echoes as Nielis shatters the staff, unleashing a surge of brilliant golden magical energy. Deep in thought, the black-haired woman looks downward, her expression clouded by the weight of her difficult task. A grim vision reveals a younger Nielis bound to a throne by thorns, surrounded by ominous hooded figures. The thorns tighten and bleed as the captive child remains trapped within the dark, cold confines of the palace. An agonizing arg sounding erupts from the boy as the removal of the magical parasite reaches its painful climax. Nielis reaches out, her hand resting gently on the boy's head to provide comfort during his moment of suffering. Enveloped in a warm, flowery glow, Nielis tenderly cradles the small boy in her arms after the ordeal ends. The blonde boy stares upward with large green eyes, his face still marked with the blood of the procedure. A faint smile touches Nielis's lips as she looks at the child, blood still splattered across her pale cheek. Surrounded by soft petals, the pair rests in a peaceful embrace, finding solace in the aftermath of the struggle. A solitary oil lamp flickers in the quiet darkness of the bedroom, casting a warm glow over the scene. As the night passes, the boy wakes and gazes softly at Nielis while she sleeps soundly beside him. Suddenly, an sounding rings out as the boy jolts awake, startled by a sudden, unexpected realization or memory. He reaches up to touch his neck, realizing with surprise that the painful burden he once carried is gone. A soft he sounding comes from the boy as Nielis begins to wake, her face still bloodstained. Nielis remains in a deep, peaceful slumber, her features softened as she finally finds a moment of true rest.
From his position on the bed, the young boy continues to watch over the sleeping woman with curious eyes.
Her eyes flutter open to a gentle, relaxed sounding as she slowly returns to consciousness in the quiet room. The scene shifts to a bright, beautiful day where colorful flowers bloom beneath a clear and vibrant blue sky. Lying among the lush green grass, Nielis enjoys a rare moment of tranquility under the warm midday sun. In the bustling town square, local vendors shout out advertisements for their freshly brewed ales to the passersby. Dressed in a dark cloak, Nielis leads the blonde boy, now called Harvey, through the busy and crowded marketplace. Nielis marvels at how quickly Harvey is developing his vocabulary only half a day after the parasite's removal. The boy struggles with his pronunciation, much to the amusement of Nielis as she watches him try to speak. Her attention is caught by a sudden jolt as a man in the market accidentally bumps into her. Harvey looks up and calls her name, his voice cutting through the noise of the busy town square. The boy's green eyes sparkle with wonder as he takes in the beauty of the flowers surrounding them. Nielis is struck by the clarity of the boy's voice, finding his call of her name surprisingly distinct. Harvey tugs insistently at the hem of Nielis's purple cloak to get her attention during their walk. Nielis firmly instructs the boy to address her as a lady while a curious onlooker watches from nearby. While searching through bundles of grass, Nielis considers which herbs might be useful for creating a disguise for Harvey. A sudden, harsh shout to get out of the way startles Nielis as she looks up in alarm. Panic rises as a horse rears up near Harvey, prompting Nielis to begin channeling a protective golden spell. A thunderous bang sounding resonates through the street as the chaotic situation reaches a sudden and violent peak.
To Nielis's shock, a woman has dived into the dirt to shield Harvey from the charging horse.
Nielis stares in disbelief at the scene, her eyes wide as she tries to process the stranger's intervention. A profound realization strikes Nielis that someone would actually risk their own life to save a complete stranger. The kind woman, Sinara, kneels in the dirt and begins checking the frightened boy for any signs of injury.
Sinara asks the boy if he is hurt, while Harvey looks at her in confusion, asking for her identity.
With tears in her eyes, the woman offers a gentle and maternal smile to the young blonde boy.
Both Nielis and Harvey are left completely stunned by the intensity of the woman's sudden and emotional reaction.
The man, Ford, explains that his wife Sinara often confuses children for their son who passed away. Sinara looks down with a sorrowful expression as she recalls the memory of her own lost child, Swift. A loud wah sounding erupts as the grieving couple embraces, leaving Nielis visibly overwhelmed by the tragic story.
Frustrated and emotional, Nielis cries out for them to stop telling such a heartbreaking and sad tale.
Ford gently moves Harvey toward his wife, while the boy looks on with a curious and quiet expression.
Nielis leans over the table with a heavy huff sounding, struggling to regain her composure after the emotional outburst.
Nielis observes the emotional scene as Sinara continues to embrace Harvey, noting that the boy's distress has finally subsided. Reflecting on her time with Harvey, Nielis realizes she hasn't cried once, nearly forgetting her body's inherent tragic habits. Watching Ford and Sinara from a distance, Nielis decides they must leave soon and begins searching for a plausible excuse. Ford asks Harvey if he shares an interest in weaponry, while Nielis watches the interaction with a calm, observant gaze. Harvey's eyes sparkle with excitement as Ford invites him to explore the various blades and polearms within his workshop. As Ford leads the boy away toward the armory, Nielis suddenly shouts for them to wait, her hand outstretched. A sudden, firm grip on Nielis's purple sleeve halts her movement, catching her completely off guard. Sinara holds Nielis back, her expression sheepish as she asks the black-haired woman for a moment of her time. When Sinara asks about her parents, Nielis internally scoffs at the idea before deciding to fabricate a tragic backstory. Neelis spins a tale about growing up in an orphanage, prompting a sob sounding from Sonara as she offers comfort.
Confused by the woman's intense reaction, Nielis watches as Sonara mistakenly celebrates their shared misfortune before quickly correcting herself. A nervous gulp sounding escapes Sonara as she hesitates, her face flushed with a mixture of hope and deep anxiety. Surrounded by delicate lilies, a soft proposal hangs in the air as Sonara asks if they would become her children. Stunned into silence, Neelis stares blankly at the woman, shocked that the offer of family was extended to her as well. Sonara gushes about her long-held dream of styling a daughter's hair, her face glowing with genuine maternal excitement. The light in Sonara's eyes fades into a somber, longing expression as she looks downward, lost in a painful memory.
Despite her inner protests, Nielis finds herself unable to refuse the grieving woman and reluctantly accepts her role for now.
A rhythmic ch sounding and sh sounding fill the room as Sonara begins gently brushing Nielis' long, dark tresses.
In the warm glow of the cottage, Neelis remains still while Sonara continues to tend to her hair with care. Sonara looks on with a wistful smile, mentioning that her own child would have been roughly Nielis's age by now.
A vision of the past shows Sonara watching her young son play, reflecting on how quickly children grow and leave. The memory shifts to her son departing for his dreams, followed by the heartbreaking moment the couple received news of his end.
Neelis brushing aside the apology, Sonara insists that the story is not a secret and prepares to reveal the truth.
Neelis' expression hardens as she learns the boy died serving the church during a brutal confrontation with the legendary witch.
Outside the cottage, Sonara informs Ford that she is heading to the market to gather supplies for a celebratory dinner.
Waving a cheerful goodbye, Neelis watches the woman leave while Harvey rests peacefully on a small bed nearby.
Alone in the quiet room, Neelis' gaze turns cold and distant as she processes the weight of Sonara's tragic revelation.
From the shadows, Mammon's voice asks if she feels a sense of guilt for the death of the couple's only son.
With a chilling look, Neelis warns the spirit to remain civil, threatening to shatter his essence if he continues his mockery. Mammon warns his mistress to remain vigilant, suggesting that this sudden hospitality might be a carefully orchestrated trap. As the boy sleeps, a dark thought surfaces, suggesting a violent alternative to simply waiting for a predetermined fate. At the marketplace, Sonara inspects the hanging meats with a critical eye, dismissing several cuts for not being fresh enough.
Ford struggles to carry the massive load of groceries, while Sonara insists on buying everything to properly welcome their guests.
The couple's shopping is interrupted by the hushed, terrified whispers of nearby townsfolk discussing an alarming presence in the area. A local man approaches Sonara with urgency, claiming to have big news that requires her immediate and undivided attention.
Sonara's face drains of color as the man reveals the terrifying news that the witch has finally been spotted nearby.
Sensing her distress, the men quickly try to silence the conversation, reminding each other of the tragedy involving Sonara's son. With a dark intensity in her green eyes, Sonara demands a detailed description of the child seen traveling with the witch.
Back at the house, Neelis greets the returning woman and asks after Mr. Ford's whereabouts with a polite smile.
A sharp click sounding echoes as Sonara closes the door, her features obscured by an ominous and chilling shadow. Maintaining a facade of kindness, Sonara explains that Ford is occupied while she prepares to begin cooking a meal. Neelis marvels at the abundance of food on the table, while Harvey remains cautious, his eyes fixed on the woman. A sudden swish sounding cuts the air as Sonara draws a pair of sharp scissors from behind her back. With a quick tack sounding, Sonara grips the blades tightly, her knuckles white as she prepares to strike the boy.
The woman lunges with murderous intent, but Harvey manages to dodge the blades, leaving a small splash of blood behind. Harvey's eyes narrow with a fierce and predatory focus, his survival instincts taking over as he glares at his attacker. Sonara pins the boy down while Nielis screams for her to stop, the situation spiraling into a violent and desperate confrontation. Unleashing her true power, Nielis stands regally as her hair shifts into a vibrant, fiery red, radiating an overwhelming magical aura. Horror dawns on Sonara's face as she looks up, finally recognizing the woman before her as the legendary, fiery-haired witch. Nielis firmly restrains Harvey's advance, noting she never gave him permission to launch an attack. With a chilling smile, the black-haired woman asks if he truly believes she requires his protection. Nielis pins Sonara to the floor, her scissors held threateningly as she tells the woman to stop. A sharp point draws blood from Sonara's neck while Nielis coldly remarks on the unfortunate situation. Harnessing her power, Nielis raises her hand as a brilliant golden energy begins to manifest. Ford raises his rifle in a panic, shouting for his wife to run for her life. Amidst the chaos, Sonara shoves Harvey toward the witch, while Ford frantically aims his weapon at Nielis. Effortlessly catching a bullet with her magic, Nielis smiles with a terrifying sense of superiority. The couple stares in paralyzed horror, finally realizing they are facing the legendary fiery-haired witch. Desperate, they beg the boy to stay away, warning him that the witch has killed countless people. Nielis reaches out toward the blonde boy, her hand hovering as she addresses the conflicted child. Harvey's voice rings out as he desperately calls Nielis' name, refusing to be separated from her. Nielis calmly explains that the boy would be better off being adopted by a normal, loving family. Harvey fiercely rejects the suggestion, claiming he has no need for a babysitter or a fake life. The blonde boy clings tightly to Nielis, his embrace showing his absolute devotion to staying by her side. Nielis describes a peaceful future where Harvey could have parents and love, shown in a bittersweet vision. Overcome with grief, Sonara sobs into her husband's chest while Ford holds his rifle, defeated and heartbroken. Harvey shouts his final refusal, declaring that he doesn't want any future that doesn't include her. Walking away from the broken couple, Nielis remains indifferent to their hatred, as Harvey follows closely behind. The black-haired woman looks back with a cold gaze, her expression devoid of any remaining sympathy. Ford tries to restrain the hysterical Sonara as she continues to scream at the departing woman. Driven by vengeance, Sonara aims the rifle again, vowing never to let the witch kill another innocent man. Nielis questions the innocence of Sonara's son, asking if his job at the church truly harmed no one. A sudden memory shows Sonara looking through a window, witnessing the grim reality of her son's work. The truth is revealed as Swift is seen participating in the brutal torture of a prisoner in chains. Sonara frantically denies the vision, insisting Nielis is mistaken and merely a murderer who forgets her victims. With a haunting calm, Nielis states that she remembers every single life that has ended by her hand. A vision depicts Nielis standing over a fallen soldier, her dark gown tottered amidst the embers of battle. The dying Swift reaches out, calling for his mother one last time before the scene fades into fire. Ford and Sonara collapse together on the floor, weeping over the tragic and violent truth of their son. Maternal grief consumes Sonara as she wails in agony, finally forced to confront the memory of Swift's death. Time passes as the scene shifts to a vibrant, peaceful village nestled under a bright blue sky. Children bicker over a toy in the grass, highlighting the quiet, domestic life found in the new settlement. Years later, a grown Harvey works in a shop, thanking a pink-haired girl for her assistance with tools. A loud clack sounding marks Harvey placing a magical core into a machine, creating a massive water vortex. The village adults marvel at the device, praising the genius of Harvey's sister who designs these inventions. A pink-haired man with a mustache grows wide-eyed with greed, imagining the riches Harvey's sister could earn. The pink-haired girl delivers a swift punch to the greedy man while Harvey insists they are happy.
The girl invites Harvey for a meal, but he holds up a hand to politely decline her offer. Harvey flashes a charming and warm smile, his blonde hair glowing in the soft afternoon light. The young man explains that he needs to return home immediately to cook for his beloved sister. Harvey walks away with a heavy bag, waving a friendly goodbye to the villagers as he heads home. The family watches him depart, the girl blushing as her mother calls Harvey a truly good boy. Looking down from a high window, Neleus realizes she's forgotten to pay Harvey for his hard day's work. Harvey approaches a young boy carrying a wooden barrel, looking down at the smaller child with intent. Suddenly, Harvey's hand clamps over the boy's mouth to keep him quiet as he prepares to speak. The pink-haired girl watches from behind barrels, gossiping about how no one has ever seen Harvey's sister.
Harvey speaks frankly to the village boys, stating he only follows them to prevent them from causing trouble.
The village children wonder aloud why Harvey is so popular, jokingly asking if he possesses some magical charm. In a charming montage, Harvey carries a pumpkin home, while the curious village children trail behind him. Village children huff and puff with exhaustion as they finally arrive at the large wooden house nestled in the trees. Finding the front door unlocked, the brown-haired boy cautiously pushes it open to lead the way inside the building. Entering the quiet home, the boy calls for Harvey, while the pink-haired girl observes that he seems to be absent. The brown-haired boy shouts toward the upper floor, warning Neleus that she will catch a cold from sleeping elsewhere. Harvey suddenly appears, startling the two guests as he calmly announces that dinner will be ready very soon. The brown-haired boy explains they came to pay for repairs, then asks if they can meet Harvey's mysterious sister. A soft voice from above interrupts Harvey's polite refusal, asking what all the noise is about downstairs. A rhythmic tap-tap sounding echoes through the room as elegant black shoes descend the wooden staircase toward the guests. Both children stand frozen in awe, their faces flushed as they gaze up at the approaching and impressive presence. Neleus gracefully descends the stairs, her long black hair and dark gown creating a striking and elegant image. With a serene gaze, the black-haired woman looks toward her unexpected visitors and asks if they have guests. A heavy silence settles over the room as the group sits for tea, the atmosphere thick with unspoken tension. Internally, Neleus is panicking and shaking, desperately wondering what she should say to these two young outsiders. She reflects on years spent hiding with Harvey, keeping up a lie of weakness while living a lavish life. In her mind, she worries about being outdated or getting bullied by the children for saying the wrong thing. While the pink-haired girl watches silently, Neleus breaks out in a sweat, internally screaming for someone to save her. The pink-haired girl is captivated by her beauty, understanding why Harvey isn't interested in any girls from the village. As they chat, the girl rudely points out that Neleus and Harvey look nothing alike for being siblings. Harvey remains close to Neleus, attentively adjusting her white shawl while the guests continue their blunt and honest observations. The pink-haired girl realizes they aren't blood-related, leaving Neleus bewildered and worried she has offended her young guests. Harvey asks if Neleus is okay, while the pink-haired girl quickly claims she is just very hungry. Flattered by Harvey's care, the pink-haired girl blushes before Neleus offers to bake some snacks for their tea. Harvey urgently tries to stop Nesis, but the black-haired woman is already excited to start her baking project. When Harvey questions her lack of experience, Neleus insists she has cooked for him before with a confident smile. A shared realization passes between them in their chibi forms as she admits she has probably never actually cooked. Harvey gently tries to take over the housework to keep her safe, but Neleus stubbornly insists on trying anyway. She firmly pushes Harvey aside, telling him to leave everything to her as she takes charge of the kitchen. With her fists clenched in determination, Neleus prepares to prove her culinary skills to her skeptical younger brother. 3 hours later, Neleus stands exhausted before a monstrous, dripping purple cake that looks more like a magical potion.
The village children try to be supportive, nervously mentioning that the taste is far more important than the appearance. A collective sounding erupts as everyone takes a bite, the word revolting flashing across the scene in shock. The kids complain about the raw interior and muddy flavor, leaving Nielis crushed by her complete culinary failure. Feeling guilty, Nielis apologizes and suggests they just go out to buy some real food for everyone instead. Harvey looks at the cake from behind, noting that the cream is whipped well despite the long baking time.
With a radiant and genuine smile, Harvey eats the cake and declares that he actually really likes it.
The village children watch in stunned silence, unable to comprehend Harvey's absolute devotion to his sister's terrible cooking.
Harvey reaches out to tenderly wipe a bit of cream from Nielis's cheek, his deep affection clear to everyone.
The pink-haired girl watches the sweet interaction with a soft, knowing smile as the tension in the room melts.
As the sun sets behind the house, a clean plate remains, showing the difficult meal has finally come to an end.
With darkness falling outside, Harvey suggests the children stay the night, while Nicholas encourages them to feel at home.
Nielis offers a kind smile, telling the guests they can call her sis, just like Harvey does.
The black-haired woman waves goodbye and heads upstairs, leaving Harvey to prepare the bedding for their young guests. The pink-haired girl is pleasantly surprised by her kindness, but the brown-haired boy senses Harvey's dark, looming shadow. When the boy attempts to call her sis, Harvey immediately cuts him off with a blunt and terrifying refusal. Glaring with a possessive and menacing intensity, Harvey makes it clear that she is only his sister and no one else's. The peaceful house stands quiet under the light of a full moon, hiding the strange dynamics unfolding within its walls.
Harvey's hands are seen smoothing out the blankets as he finishes preparing the beds for the upcoming night. He tells the children to get rest and see them tomorrow, his polite words contrasting with his frightening aura.
Shivering in their beds, the children agree that they must never, under any circumstances, make Harvey angry again. Despite the lingering fear, a cheerful thwump sounding rings out as the pink-haired girl falls onto her comfortable bed. The pink-haired girl rolls excitedly on the bed, ignoring the brown-haired boy's warning about breaking the furniture. She eagerly proposes a late-night adventure, but the brown-haired boy immediately dismisses the idea as a terrible plan.
Ram begins a cautionary tale about a man with his same name who encountered a dangerous carnivorous vine.
In the flashback, a hard-working young hunter named Ram treks through the dense forest to make ends meet. The hunter spots a rabbit trapped in a vine and approaches, believing himself to be very lucky. Suddenly, the sentient vine attacks, and Ram vanishes beyond the bushes as the plants completely consume his body. Days later, villagers carrying torches search the dark woods for the missing hunter, but find no trace of him. They discover only a massive patch of flowering vines as the brown-haired boy continues his frightening oral history. He describes the gruesome fate of the hunter, claiming he was turned into a thin sheet of human leather. Emily shrieks in terror at the dark story while the boy laughs mockingly at her complete cowardice. Tucking herself into bed, the girl insists on changing the subject to avoid any more scary stories. When she checks on her companion, she realizes the brown-haired boy has actually fainted from his own storytelling. Restless and unable to sleep, the girl lies awake in the quiet room, staring blankly at her pillow. She reflects on Harvey's devotion to Nielis, her hand a clench-sounding tightening around the white bedsheets. Under the bright full moon, the pink-haired girl leaves the house and looks out from the balcony. She sighs, deciding that a midnight walk is the only way to clear her head and find sleep. Suddenly, she stops and looks down in confusion, wondering what she has stepped on in the dark. Kneeling, she finds a delicate white flower growing strangely from the wooden planks of the balcony floor. Her eyes widen as she sees the massive vine covering the window, illuminated by a mysterious blue light.
A gulp sounding escapes her throat as she recalls the terrifying story of the carnivorous plant from earlier. On the balcony, Neelis explains that Harvey's paladin skills are useless for saving the magical sentient plant. She laments that without magic it will wither, yet her own magic would only kill it even faster. With tears in her eyes, Neelis reflects on her curse and the ruin she brings to everything nearby. A creak sounding startles Neelis, who turns toward the door with glowing magic swirling around her hand. Emily peeks out, asking Neelis if she was speaking to someone in the middle of the night. The black-haired woman's graceful form is reflected in the girl's wide purple eye as they gaze at one another. Neelis stands elegantly amidst the glowing blue blossoms, her dark gown flowing under the light of the moon. Wiping away a tear, she kindly asks Emily why she is still awake at such a late hour. The girl is completely mesmerized, whispering that the black-haired woman looks absolutely gorgeous in the moonlight. Approaching with excitement, Emily asks if the beautiful, glowing plants are a result of magical power. Neelis explains the plant's sentient nature and magically commands the vine to pour her guest a cup of tea. Emily watches in awe as the flower-covered vine behaves like a servant, offering her a steaming cup. Enchanted by the plant, the pink-haired girl asks Neelis if the cute creature has its own name. The vine retreats with a quick whip sounding as the girl reaches out to touch its delicate petals. Neelis explains that the nameless plant is shy and doomed to wither away in just a few days. A memory shows Neelis on a whim injecting magic into the dying seeds, surprised that they grew at all. She sadly admits that her magic only hastens its death and that she has run out of options. Neelis mentions the need for a magician, and Emily boldly suggests that she should train one herself. The pink-haired girl poses with fierce determination, vowing to learn magic to save the dying plant. A peaceful dawn breaks over the village house, signaling the end of the long and eventful night. The brown-haired boy wakes up with a groan, clutching his head and wondering how long he was unconscious. Harvey asks if he is an early riser, while the boy complains about the noise coming from the balcony. Chaos erupts as a loud bam sounding marks a door slamming shut during a heated argument upstairs. Neelis runs out in a panic as Emily chases her, desperately calling her teacher while begging for training. Overwhelmed by the girl's persistence, the black-haired woman screams her refusal as she flees down the hall. Neelis rushes down the stairs, her feet nearly tripping over the vines as she tries to escape the girl. Looking up with wide eyes, Harvey is startled by the sudden and noisy commotion on the upper floor. A catch sounding occurs as Harvey grabs Neelis, holding her securely in his protective arms to stop her fall. The guests watch from the stairs while Harvey demands to know what has caused such a frantic scene. In a chibi summary, Emily apologizes for the chaos while explaining her desire to become Neelis' student. The brown-haired boy clenches his fist in fury, shouting at Harvey while Neelis watches with a bewildered expression. A sharp thwack sounding echoes through the air as an unseen impact occurs amidst a background of cute doodles. The brown-haired boy continues scolding Harvey while Emily bows deeply on the ground, begging for forgiveness for her persistence. Harvey asks Neelis if she is truly comfortable with this new arrangement, noticing her slightly overwhelmed and sweating reaction. Gazing at Neelis with deep sincerity, Harvey suggests that saving the dying astral vine would surely bring her happiness. Harvey's green eyes sparkle with an intense and hopeful light as he asks Neelis for her final confirmation. Neelis becomes flustered and blushes, questioning why she feels so worried as her little brother watches her with concern. A haunting flashback reveals a girl with glowing glasses holding a heavy book framed by a delicate floral border. Neelis recalls the agonizing death caused by her predecessor's curse, fearing that she only brings ruin to those nearby. Neelis reflects on her status as a transmigrator before a sudden snap sounding marks her decision to ignore her trauma. Looking at the expectant faces of the children, Neelis hopes that teaching magic might finally free her from her predecessor's shadow. Neelis formally announces the start of her magic class tomorrow, much to the excitement of the children and Harvey. Striking a bold and authoritative pose, Neelis demands that her new students obey her every single order without question. The next morning begins with exhausting huffing soundings as Emily and the boy run laps while Harvey practices his swordplay. After a grueling training session, Harvey wipes the sweat from his face as he prepares for the next phase of practice. Harvey asks Neelis if he should run more laps while she relaxes under a parasol with a refreshing drink. Emily and the boy collapse in exhaustion, complaining about the physical training and suspecting that Neelis is secretly a witch. Neelis points to a sand timer, ruthlessly reminding the two brats that they still have 7 more laps to finish.
Shivering and completely drained, Emily and the boy sit back to back, unable to move after their intense morning of physical exercise.
Harvey serves Neelis more juice and asks what chores the exhausted children should perform next to continue their stamina building. Looking over her sunglasses, Neelis asks Harvey if he is truly okay with pushing his young friends so hard. Harvey reassures her that he believes the training is for their benefit, and she questions if he has other motives. Gazing thoughtfully at the garden, Harvey admits that his desire for them to stay goes beyond simple friendship or training. At night, Harvey approaches Neelis's room, only to see her through the door, sadly holding the withered and glowing vine. Harvey pauses at the entrance, his face partially obscured by shadows as he watches his sister's quiet moment of sorrow. Standing alone in the dark hallway with a tea tray, Harvey looks down with a melancholic expression for his sister. The next day, Neelis begins the magic lesson by introducing the concept of transmutation, while the group gathers outside. Emily looks at her wooden branch with extreme skepticism, wondering if such a plain stick can truly channel magical power. After handing the boy a leek, Neelis explains that any long object can serve as a suitable amplifier for their magic. Harvey expresses concern about Neelis exposing her true identity, but she reassures him that her staff stores enough hidden magic. Neelis strikes a graceful pose with her ornate staff, summoning a swirling aura of magical energy and floating flower petals. Emily and the boy watch with wide eyes, though they initially feel disappointed when nothing immediately happens during the spellcast. A powerful swoosh sounding erupts as a massive, fiery red phoenix suddenly takes flight and soars high above the forest. The children stand in paralyzed shock as the enormous, glowing bird's wingspan casts a wide shadow over the entire clearing. Neelis casually explains she transmuted a tiny sparrow, leaving the brown-haired boy screaming in terror at her overwhelming power level. Neelis encourages the boy to try the spell himself, but he recoils in fear, knowing he cannot match her results. Determined to prove herself, Emily raises her wooden branch and prepares to attempt the transmutation spell on the local wildlife. Emily points her makeshift staff at a group of small birds, focusing all her concentration on channeling her new magic. A brilliant light surrounds Emily as she attempts the complex transmutation spell, hoping to replicate Neelis's incredible feat from earlier. Emily sighs in disappointment, believing her spell failed, while the little birds behind her begin to sweat in nervous anticipation. Neelis and Harvey both point in collective shock at the unexpected result of Emily's first attempt at using transmutation magic. Emily is bewildered to find that she has accidentally transmuted the brown-haired boy's head into a giant glowing orange pumpkin. The pumpkin-headed boy rages with fiery aura, while a terrified Emily cowers from his intense and vegetable-themed fury. Harvey looks on with a calm expression as the pumpkin-headed boy demands that Emily change him back to normal immediately. Watching the chaotic scene from their seats, Neelis asks Harvey once more why he is so insistent on the children staying. The pumpkin-headed boy chases Emily through the trees, waving his leek and threatening to retaliate with his own magic. A sudden poof sounding marks another failed spell, as the boy tries to fix his condition, but only makes things worse.
The boy is horrified to find he now has a pig's head, and he angrily accuses Emily of sabotaging him.
A soft puffed sounding escapes Neelis as she desperately tries to stifle her laughter at the boy's ridiculous new appearance.
Neelis finally bursts into a genuine and beautiful laugh, while Harvey watches her with a warm and loving smile.
Emily and Ram practice their spells in the woods, sparks flying from their makeshift wooden wands. A sudden poof sounding marks a failed transmutation, turning a bird into a very grumpy-looking frying pan.
Relaxing under the trees, Neelis watches as another poof sounding summons a dainty teapot for her afternoon refreshment.
Ram holds an orange paper crane that chirps incessantly, wondering if his mediocre result counts as a success.
Neelis ruthlessly scores Ram's performance, declaring his ability to only create inanimate objects as strictly average.
Emily is overwhelmed by a pile of cute animals, frustrated that she couldn't summon the rabbits she wanted.
Several poof soundings erupt as Emily celebrates her superior score, much to the annoyance of her brown-haired companion.
As the group rests, the children beg Harvey to demonstrate his skills, feeling Neelis's magic is far too advanced.
Harvey hesitates for a moment before gripping his wooden branch with a quiet but firm determination.
Neelis holds up an exclamation sign with a mischievous glint in her eyes, eager for a good show.
Striking a heroic pose, Harvey channels his energy as a complex magical circle forms behind his golden hair.
A sudden rustle sounding in the nearby bushes draws everyone's attention to the potential target of Harvey's spell.
Emily and Ram watch in awe, noting that Harvey's aura feels fundamentally different and far more powerful than theirs.
With a fierce "ha!", Harvey swings his branch, unleashing a wave of energy toward the target in the distance.
A tiny sparrow looks on in pure shock as a flash of light streaks past, narrowly missing its head. Silence returns to the clearing as the wind dies down and the leaves settle back onto the forest floor.
The unaffected bird simply hops away, leaving Harvey's grand magical display without a single tangible result.
Harvey stands frozen in disappointment while Neelis trembles with suppressed laughter at his complete failure to cast magic.
The children question why they ever expected Harvey to succeed as he blushes furiously from the mounting embarrassment.
Neelis collapses into hysterical laughter with several heavy thump soundings, leaving a humiliated Harvey to face the kids' judgment.
Neelis declares Harvey has no talent, but a defiant Emily argues that slow and steady will eventually win.
Ram begs Emily to stop her lecturing, while Harvey remains dejected, crushed by Neelis's blunt assessment of his skills.
Offended by the children's remarks about her teaching, Neelis summons a swirling golden aura to prove her worth.
A powerful swoosh sounding echoes as Neelis prepares to teach them a lesson about true magical authority.
Clang soundings ring out as Harvey and Emily are buffeted by a massive surge of wind and magical pressure.
Neelis offers a playful apology, while a flustered Harvey tries to regain his composure after her overwhelming display.
Softly smiling, Neelis gazes at Harvey and hints that the answer to his struggle is already within him.
Harvey looks down at his hands, bewildered as Neelis explains that his true path lies elsewhere.
A vision reveals Harvey's destiny as a powerful knight, cutting through enemies with incredible skill and martial prowess.
Harvey's future as a paladin is shown as he protects children amidst the ruins of a devastated village.
Neelis reassures Harvey that his lack of magical talent is because he was born to be an exceptional paladin.
Neelis playfully tells the brat to repay her one day, leaving Harvey staring at her with wide, mesmerized eyes. Neelis turns back with a confused expression, wondering why Harvey is acting so strange after her heartfelt speech.
Shadows fall over Harvey's face as he remains silent, deeply moved and motivated by his sister's belief in him.
As the sun sets, the children head home, but Harvey decides to stay behind for extra training.
Alone in the quiet forest, Harvey takes a deep inhale, focusing his spirit for the long night ahead.
Under the twilight sky, Harvey practices tirelessly with his staff, leaving trails of golden light in his wake.
Neelis watches from a distance, surprised and slightly concerned by Harvey's sudden and intense passion for training. Inside the inn, Emily vows not to let Harvey outshine her, while Ram watches her competitive outburst with exhaustion. Ram wisely notes that Harvey's drive comes from wanting to protect someone dear, catching Neelis off guard. To illustrate his point, Ram asks a flustered Emily to explain her own reasons for wanting to learn magic. Emily strikes a heroic pose against a cute background, her determination fueled by her bond with her friends.
Ram explains that while others seek gold or faith, Harvey's motivation is purely based on his devotion to Neelis.
Harvey continues his grueling practice as Ram concludes that he simply wants to stand beside Neelis as an equal. A bittersweet thought occurs to Ram as he imagines the diverging paths of a knight and a magician. Ram flies into a rage when Neelis praises his high emotional intelligence instead of taking his warnings seriously. Emily and Ram put aside their bickering to brainstorm a new way to motivate the hardworking Harvey. A bright light bulb appears above Neelis as she suddenly comes up with a brilliant and likely chaotic plan. The trio huddles together in a secret meeting, whispering their new strategy to help Harvey reach his full potential. The group marches into the deep forest, Neelis warning them to stay alert as they begin their offensive training. The group ventures into the deep woods, surrounded by a sudden, low grr sounding from hidden magic wolves. Glowing blue eyes pierce the darkness as the wolves lunge, their fierce growls sounding startling the terrified teacher.
Neelis bravely orders everyone behind her, though a skeptical Harvey prepares to draw his sword anyway.
A wolf lunges with a sharp snap, forcing a scream from Neelis as her defensive spell fails to manifest. A crisp swing sounding marks Harvey's intervention as he slashes through a wolf to protect his frozen sister. Breathless, Harvey checks on his sister, who shakily reassures him that she remains unharmed despite the close call.
Neelis trembles in self-reproach, realizing her sudden paralysis nearly cost them their lives in the heat of battle.
While Neelis reels, Emily skeptically notes that the teacher's fumble seemed suspiciously like a scripted performance. Dropping her staff, Neelis pleads for Harvey to buy her more time as she struggles to regain her composure. A subtle pft sounding escapes Harvey as he offers a knowing small smile before re-entering the fray. Harvey steps forward with his sword drawn, secretly following Neelis's plan while the other children watch in awe. Neelis centers herself, her staff beginning to glow with a soft, ethereal light as she prepares a hidden spell. With a sharp shick sounding, Harvey continues his defense, perfectly coordinating his movements with Neelis's subtle magical support. A massive shrak sounding erupts as Harvey unleashes a golden energy wave, decimating the pack of magic wolves. Harvey completes a powerful strike while Neelis maintains her graceful pose, their combined efforts clearing the immediate danger. Silence follows as a wolf lies defeated, blood staining the ground amidst the beautiful red spider lilies. Harvey stands triumphantly over the fallen beasts, declaring the area safe for the children to continue their training. Emily and Ram erupt in cheers, hailing Harvey as an incredible swordsman for his heroic and decisive victory. Bathed in the soft forest light, Harvey stands with a stoic back, looking like a true knight of legend. Neelis showers Harvey with exaggerated praise, acting the part of the damsel while emphasizing her dependence on him. Neelis claps cheerfully, though Emily and Ram remain unimpressed by her overly dramatic and transparent acting. Harvey blushes a deep red, completely enamored by the praise, much to the exhausted annoyance of his young companions. Desperate for more validation, a starry-eyed Harvey begs Neelis to repeat her compliments, leaving Emily feeling utterly disillusioned. Ram and Emily whisper about Harvey's extreme gullibility, while the blonde boy basks in Neelis's constant playful flattery.
Ram looks on with a complicated expression, wondering how he can even explain this bizarre situation to Emily. Joy fills the clearing as Harvey and Nielis laugh together, the blonde knight begging for just one more compliment. Emily focuses her concentration, a brilliant magical circle appearing as she attempts a life-giving spell on a wooden branch. A magical shalalala sounding accompanies the appearance of vibrant blue flowers, signaling Emily's successful use of magic. Emily celebrates her breakthrough as vines bloom around her, a sight that leaves both Nielis and Ram stunned. Nielis watches the scene with a heavy gaze, her eyes reflecting a sudden and deep-seated melancholy for the past. Emily excitedly shows off her blooming vine, explaining how her magic can slow the inevitable process of decay. Reflecting on her own history, Nielis wonders why she was once so certain that certain things were hopeless causes. Looking toward the sky, Nielis admits that her life in hiding has made her stagnant and fearful of growth. A somber expression crosses Nielis's face as she contemplates the heavy weight of her past decisions and responsibilities. Breaking the heavy mood, a bright Emily suggests they give her new magical creation a special name. Emily presents the vine with newfound confidence, determined to move forward despite the slow progress of her magic. With a reassuring smile, Emily promises to take over the worries, her youthful spirit contrasting Nielis's inner turmoil. The trio bickers over names like Pebbles and Quazawaza, their lighthearted argument bringing a brief smile to Nielis's face. Dark memories resurface as a vision of a blood-stained girl haunts Nielis, her purple eyes widening in sudden grief. The group settles on the name Wendy, after which Nielis quietly excuses herself to go home and change. Emily and Ram watch Nielis leave with concern, noting that the teacher looks uncharacteristically unwell and tired. A final click sounding marks Nielis closing the door, as a mysterious voice notes her growing affection for Emily. Nielis dismisses the comment, insisting she is simply doing her duty as a teacher to guide a diligent pupil. Nielis reflects on the insurmountable gap between normal people and geniuses, her mind drifting back to her past student. An old, weathered face appears in the shadows, chillingly noting that Emily's path is just like Makara's. Memories reveal Makara was Nielis's first and last student, showing a warm bond built over books and magic lessons. The vision turns tragic as Nielis stands over Makara's lifeless body, blood staining her hands and her broken spirit. Makara's shadowed figure remains etched in Nielis's mind, a constant reminder of the pain that follows forming bonds. A soft whoosh sounding marks the night wind as Nielis stands alone in her dark room, staring outside. Ruled by her fear of loss, Nielis resolves to keep her heart closed, believing herself unfit for human connection. Nielis is startled by a sudden ka-thunk sounding outside her bedroom window during the quiet morning hours. Pulling the curtain aside, Nielis looks out to investigate who might be lurking just outside her home. A loud ah sounding echoes as Harvey falls backward from a tree, startling the panicked teacher even more. Harvey explains he used the window to avoid the locked door, hoping to convince Nielis to join them. Looking dejected, Nielis refuses to leave, mentioning she hasn't stepped foot outside her house in 6 long years. Harvey, persistent, argues that things have changed and tempts her with the promise of Ram's favorite local pancakes. Frustrated by the pressure, Nielis yells a firm refusal, her voice filled with deep-seated anxiety and social fear. Shaking with tears, Nielis explains her deep dislike for meeting people and asks why they keep pushing her. Harvey is momentarily speechless at her outburst, but remains determined to bring a little light back into her life. Against a backdrop of sun-drenched windows, Harvey softly tells Nielis they should go because spring has finally arrived. Harvey offers a warm, encouraging smile, his face framed by delicate white flowers as he seeks to comfort her. The scene transitions through a beautiful arrangement of morning glories and jasmine, signaling a fresh start for everyone.
The town marketplace bustles with life as vendors call out about their freshly picked fruits to the passing crowd. Diverse townspeople walk past a stone wall covered in wanted posters, oblivious to the history of their visitors.
Disguised in elegant clothing, Neelis nervously scans the wall of wanted posters to see if she is still targeted.
Neelis dismisses several posters with a quick, "Nope," relieved to find that her face is not displayed among them.
Lifting another flyer, Neelis continues her frantic search, desperate to confirm that she is no longer a fugitive.
Neelis freezes in realization, her eyes widening as she wonders if she is finally free after 6 years.
Overjoyed, Neelis erupts into a cheering celebration while Emily and Ram watch her sudden, uncharacteristic outburst with confusion.
Emily and Ram exchange skeptical glances, labeling Neelis's excitement over wanted posters a very strange and confusing hobby.
Harvey arrives with a tray of candied fruit skewers and pastries, hoping to share a sweet treat together. In a cute, stylized scene, Harvey offers a candied skewer to Neelis, who accepts it with wide-eyed curiosity.
Neelis's face glows with pure bliss as she tastes the sweet fruit, much to the delight of her companions. Emily questions a warrant for a minor bread thief, wondering why the town's law enforcement is so incredibly strict.
Ram notes that the town is remarkably safe, a sentiment that Neelis quietly and solemnly agrees with.
Emily and Ram discuss how life improved under new leadership after the fall of the city's corrupt church.
Neelis listens with a gentle, knowing smile, feeling a sense of peace she hasn't known for many years.
The group continues their stroll through the sunny town square, eager to shop and explore the vibrant marketplace. Emily feels self-conscious, worrying that everyone is staring at them, while Ram wonders what's drawing so much attention.
Neelis and Harvey walk together amidst blooming yellow flowers, looking like a pair of high-born nobles on a stroll. A chibi Emily and Ram race ahead with their snacks, urging the others to hurry to the next shop. Playfully fleeing from the group's excitement, Harvey and Neelis share a light-hearted moment together in the sunny square. The group settles down at an outdoor cafe to enjoy a warm meal of soup and bread together. Inside a magic shop, Emily excitedly browses through a collection of staves while Harvey and Ram wait nearby. Neelis strikes a classic magical girl pose with a pink heart-topped staff, fully embracing the fun of the trip. Harvey stands regally in a white and blue knight's outfit, looking every bit the legendary paladin he dreams of. Donning sunglasses, Neelis playfully orders the shopkeeper to wrap everything up as she presents her prestigious black card. The group marches out of the shop laden with bags, Neelis leading with uncharacteristic energy and newfound confidence. Ram observes that Neelis has saved up for years just to spoil her students, proving her underlying kindness. Laughing with pure joy, Neelis looks more vibrant and alive than she has since her time in hiding began. Harvey watches her with a tender smile, thinking that nothing in the world is more important than her happiness.
Emily studies a map, mentioning a floating market further down the river as Neelis snacks on cotton candy.
A sudden bam sounding rings out as a man crashes into Emily, sending her stumbling back in shock. The aggressive man shouts at Emily to watch where she is going, despite being the one who bumped her. Emily's face pales in horror as she realizes her purse has been stolen during the brief, chaotic encounter. Emily screams for the thief to stop, her anger flaring as the man flees through the crowded town square. Furious, Emily draws her new magic staff and prepares to unleash her power on the thief who robbed her. The thief panics, shouting for her to shut up as he realizes the pink-haired girl is a magic user. A brilliant golden aura swirls around Emily's staff as she channels her mana for a powerful offensive strike. A system warning for aggression appears just before a loud thump sounding marks Emily getting knocked back by a barrier. Emily is trapped in a magical cage after her staff breaks, leaving Ram in a state of shock as thumps sounding. Neelis steps forward to intervene as Ram calls out to her in a desperate plea for help. A cold gaze from Neelis freezes the fleeing thief in his tracks as a booming voice orders him to stop.
A purple-haired knight pins the thief down, identifying the man and placing him under arrest for the robbery.
The red-haired knight inspects Emily's magical prison while the young girl waits in anxious, silent confusion.
Reviewing her records, the red-haired knight notes the lack of information on Emily, deepening the tension. The knight orders the group of outsiders to accompany her, asserting her authority over the marketplace chaos.
Neelis demands to know the charges against Emily, questioning why her student is being taken away.
Frustrated by the situation, the red-haired knight resolves to tighten security to keep troublesome outsiders away.
Showing her crest, the knight explains that only the Order of Heimdall's Light has the right to use force.
The knights charge Emily with the unlawful use of force, disregarding the group's attempts to defend her.
With a chilling smile, the purple-haired knight warns them that any resistance will label them all as accomplices.
Neelis prepares a counterstrike, her hand glowing with a mysterious mana as she challenges the knight's authority.
A loud clang sounding echoes as Neelis releases a powerful shockwave, knocking back the soldiers and her friends alike.
Neelis stands tall amidst the debris, her expression unreadable as she stares down her new opponents.
A sharp, sweet-sounding rings out as the purple-haired knight signals for reinforcements while his partner draws her blade.
Following Neelis's lead, Rom and Harvey focus their mana to overwhelm and shatter Emily's magical cage. The red-haired knight watches the display of power with a growing sense of alarm and professional interest. Confusion reigns as the knight finds her target gone, her plans thwarted by the group's unexpected resistance.
Abandoning his post, the purple-haired knight falls to his knees to praise Neelis's stunning beauty and strength.
Neelis is visibly unsettled as the knight continues his bizarre, dramatic confession of admiration in the public square. The knight begs Neelis to stomp on his face, his shameless request leaving her utterly speechless and horrified. A rapid patter sounding fills the air as Harvey rushes forward to defend Neelis's honor. With a powerful swoosh sounding, Harvey clashes with the purple-haired knight, blocking his path to Neelis.
Sparks fly as the two swordsmen trade blows, their eyes locked in a fierce battle of wills. Harvey stands protectively over Neelis while the opposing knight raises his hands in a playful, surrendered gesture.
Gripping his sword tight, Harvey remains on high alert, refusing to let the strange man near his teacher. The red-haired knight furiously scolds her partner, Oliver, for his inappropriate behavior while on official duty. A soft heel sounding accompanies a golden glow as Oliver mends the minor cut on his hand. Neelis watches the interaction with a curious gaze, intrigued by the strange power Oliver just displayed. Realization dawns on Neelis as she identifies Oliver as a paladin, possessing a rare power like Harvey's. Harvey maintains his defensive stance, his green eyes burning with determination to keep his companions safe. A moment of quiet passes as leaves drift through the clear sky, marking a pause in the confrontation. Oliver and his partner regroup, the tension between the two sets of warriors still thick in the air. The red-haired knight issues a final ultimatum, threatening to arrest everyone if they continue to resist. A glint of light catches on a scabbard, signaling the potential for another round of violent conflict. Harvey asks Neelis for guidance, his youthful face reflecting the heavy pressure of the standoff. Neelis weighs her options, torn between protecting her secret identity and ensuring Emily's safety. Both sides prepare for battle, the air crackling with mana as the confrontation reaches its peak.
A loud screech sounding interrupts the fight as Ram steps between the groups to demand a peaceful resolution.
Ram urges the knights to stand down, pointing out that a fight would only endanger the civilians nearby.
With a stern look, Ram highlights the growing crowd and the risk of collateral damage in the marketplace.
Ram argues that, as knights, they should strive for peace rather than adding to the town's chaos.
Emily and Ram break into tears, pleading for mercy as they beg not to be thrown into jail. Oliver and the red-haired knight exchange a glance, considering the boy's logical and emotional appeal. The knight decides to show leniency, allowing Emily to go free provided they all visit headquarters for questioning.
Joyous relief washes over Emily and Ram, while Nielis remains wary of the knight's underlying motives.
Ram apologizes to Nielis for the detour, but she reassures him that this outcome is far better than fighting. Nielis' eyes narrow with interest as she decided to investigate the mysterious Order of Heimdall's Light further.
Nielis concludes that these guards are no ordinary soldiers, ranking them as high-level captains in her mind.
Harvey's previous clash was merely a test, revealing the overwhelming gap in power between him and the Paladin. Oliver and the red-haired knight command immense respect from the public, raising questions about the Order's mysterious origins.
Recalling the magic trap, Nielis realizes the current events deviate entirely from the original plot of the novel.
Nielis contemplates how her destruction of the corrupt church triggered a massive butterfly effect, making the future unpredictable. The group follows the knights toward a grand structure, transitioning from the marketplace chaos to the Order's headquarters. Inside the sprawling headquarters, magic books flutter through the air, leaving the young travelers wide-eyed with astonishment.
Ram, Harvey, and Emily gaze in wonder at the magical library, feeling the weight of the Order's vast knowledge.
The red-haired knight explains that this repurposed church building now serves as the center for the Order's daily operations. Confronting a repeat offender, the knight identifies the thief as George Moore and orders a 3-month sentence. The knight scolds George for breaking his promise to find honest work after his previous release from prison. George desperately argues that his criminal record makes him unemployable, forcing him back to thievery to save his mother. Bitter memories of rejection and humiliation flash through George's mind as he explains his lack of better options. Accusing officials of ignoring commoners, George watches as the knight asks a colleague for job opportunities without background checks. Maria suggests weaving, but the knight dismisses it due to the high cost of equipment for a poor family. The travelers watch as the knights brainstorm, eventually deciding to train George in embroidery to help him earn honestly. Offering a chance at redemption, the knight promises medical care for George's mother if he studies hard during detention. Shocked by the unexpected kindness, George can only offer a stunned thanks while the outsiders observe the encounter.
Ram and Emily are deeply impressed by the knight's compassion, concluding that everyone in the Order is genuinely kind.
During registration, the red-haired knight checks the registry, while Ram carefully maintains their cover story about living in Slayton. An eccentric, overwhelmed registrar with swirly glasses processes the group as Ram and Emily provide carefully fabricated family details.
Nielis panics internally, struggling to devise a believable explanation for where they have been for the past 6 years. Harvey stands confidently beside a worried Nielis, his bright smile hiding the weight of their collective secrets.
The knight instructs the group to follow her for further questioning once their official registration is finally complete. Sensing something is wrong, Ram chases Harvey through the library to confront him about their deceptive registration details. Ram worries that Harvey's lies about their origins could lead to their arrest for fraud if the knights investigate. Harvey dismisses the risk, banking on the fact that the understaffed registry is too overwhelmed to verify individual histories. Wanting to stay off the radar, Harvey reminds Ram that excessive honesty has led to trouble in the past. Emily's suspicious behavior catches the registrar's attention, though she quickly and nervously denies having anything to hide. Harvey playfully urges Ram to relax, confident that their secrets are safe within the chaos of the headquarters. With a mischievous glint in his eye, Harvey makes a silent gesture for Ram to keep their deception a secret. Exhausted by the tension, Emily collapses onto the desk, feeling like a fugitive even among her own friends. The red-haired knight delivers a massive stack of law books, tasking Emily with studying the consequences of her actions. Emily is horrified by the sheer volume of reading, but the knight clarifies she only needs to learn specific laws. Presenting the national law and the Order's history, the knight narrows down Emily's required reading to 2 main volumes. The remaining stack consists entirely of Oliver's memoirs, which the knight dismissively suggests using as firewood for tea. Neelis inquires about Oliver's strength, prompting the knight to admit she didn't expect such power in a small town. As books burn in the hearth, the knight notes that Nielis also possesses a level of magic beyond typical travelers.
The knight suspects Neelis was a high-ranked magician before the legendary witch's fire changed the world 6 years ago.
While the tea brews, the knight explains that powerful mages often hide because of strict capital restrictions. Despite the tough work, the order prides itself on tolerance, welcoming unique individuals from all walks of life without judgment. A soft smile touches the knight's face as she expresses her genuine love for the inclusive community within the order.
The knight teases Emily about her interest in Oliver, causing the young girl to wave her hands in embarrassed denial.
Neelis realizes these people are products of the world she changed, existing entirely outside the plot of the original novel. Peacefully reading by the light, Neelis contemplates the vibrant new reality her past actions helped to create.
The sun sets behind the grand headquarters, a symbol of the new leadership that rose from the church's ashes.
A heroic figure raises a flag over a cheering crowd, representing the revolutionary birth of the Order's light. Oliver and his partner stand before the looming shadow of their legendary founder, reflecting on their mission for justice. Chibi Neelis is shocked to learn that harsh punishments for children can lead to the disciplinarian's own detention. Emily reads about laws protecting children from abuse, wishing her own mother had been aware of such strict regulations. Ram is stunned to find that property damage carries a heavy sentence, jokingly worrying about his sister's potential prison time. Savoring her tea, the red-haired knight considers leniency for the minors, while Chibi Harvey supports the original sentence. Harvey questions if the guards can handle such strict laws, prompting the red-haired knight to admit their shared struggles. The knight explains that their uncompromising leader insists on following legal protocols to the letter, regardless of the severity. Emily and Ram appear unimpressed as the knight mentions their desperate need for more personnel to manage legal outreach. A warm and inviting gesture from the red-haired knight signals a shift in the tone of their conversation.
Neelis firmly rejects a proposal, her hand raised in dismissal as Emily reacts with wide-eyed and comical shock.
Emily enthusiastically supports joining the order for legal combat perks, while Nielis questions her sudden and intense bloodlust. The knight suggests that Harvey and Emily hold their final decision until they meet the order's head of magic. Surprising the group, the knight points directly at Harvey, revealing that he is the primary target for their recruitment. A memory reveals that Oliver intentionally took a blow during the previous duel to gauge the blonde boy's talent. Oliver watches Harvey from a distance, advising his partner not to let such a promising young warrior slip away. Harvey stares ahead with a serious expression, internalizing the weight of the knight's interest in his martial potential. Golden ginkgo leaves drift through a bright and peaceful atmosphere, marking a quiet transition in the group's journey.
Entering the training grounds, the group hears the rhythmic ha and clack sounding of wooden weapons striking in unison. A heavy thunk sounding echoes as a purple-haired recruit strikes a shield, demonstrating the intensity of the order's training.
The red-haired knight announces their arrival to Oliver, who turns away from the active training session to greet them. Oliver's face lights up with sheer excitement as he asks if the beautiful lady has finally arrived at headquarters. Grabbing Neelis's hand, Oliver showers her with flirtatious praise while a jealous Harvey fumes in the background.
A sudden thump sounding punctuates the air as Neelis realizes she cannot lower her guard around the eccentric paladin.
The red-haired knight pins Oliver to the ground with her boot, while Harvey keeps the persistent flirt at bay. Oliver invites Harvey to join the order, but the boy delivers a blunt refusal, doubting their ability to teach him. Challenging the boy's judgment, Oliver brandishes a wooden sword with a quick TMP sounding and proposes a one-handed spar. Oliver assumes a confident stance, his eyes gleaming with anticipation for a rematch against the talented young swordsman. A dramatic close-up of Harvey's green eye reflects his absolute focus as he prepares to face the high-level paladin. Under the bright sun and crumbling ruins, the two warriors face off, wooden blades ready for an exhibition of skill. Ram and Emily cheer loudly for Harvey to win, while Nielis maintains a composed and observant silence nearby. Harvey's foot slides across the dirt as he launches himself forward with incredible speed to start the duel. Rapid thwack, crack, and clack sounding fill the yard as the two swordsmen engage in a high-speed exchange of blows. Determination burns in Harvey's gaze, his every sense heightened as he pushes himself to keep pace with Oliver's movements. A powerful swoosh sounding erupts as a whirlwind of dust and mana swirls around Oliver, momentarily obscuring the battlefield. Utilizing his superior agility, Harvey leaps high into the air, aiming a decisive strike down toward the guarded paladin. A confident smirk plays on Oliver's lips, clearly enjoying the challenge provided by the boys' surprisingly innovative combat style.
The spectators are left breathless and wide-eyed by the overwhelming intensity and speed of the training match before them.
Mid-air, Harvey narrowly avoids a counterattack, the clash of their wooden blades creating a blur of motion and dust. Oliver ends the match by positioning his sword at the back of Harvey's neck, proving his overwhelming tactical superiority. Oliver warns Harvey that without formal training, he will eventually stall and become just another face in the crowd. With a piercing and serious gaze, Oliver emphasizes the importance of refined skill over raw, unguided talent in combat. Despite the loss, Oliver offers a genuine smile and predicts that Harvey will eventually surpass him with the right guidance. Deeply inspired by the fight, Harvey turns to Nielis and asks for permission to stay and study the sword. Nielis immediately objects, her sharp tone and closed eyes signaling her firm refusal of Harvey's sudden and unexpected request. She argues that the distance is too great, fearing that travel time would distract from his overall well-being and growth. Nielis further discourages him by jokingly asking if he plans to leave all the household chores for her to handle. Harvey's expression crumbles into sadness as Nielis urges him to consider others before following his own selfish whims. Softening her gaze, Nielis looks at the heartbroken boy, realizing the deep impact her stern words have had on him. Placing a gentle hand on Harvey's head, Nielis asks him why he only obeys her instead of following his heart. She reminds him that he owes her nothing and possesses the absolute right to decide the course of his life. Harvey listens in stunned silence, his green eyes widening as he absorbs his teacher's emotional and empowering life lesson. With a final supportive pat on his head, Nielis tells Harvey to simply do whatever he truly wants to do. A radiant and warm smile touches Nielis's face, offering Harvey the unconditional support he needs to pursue his own path. Harvey blushes intensely, his heart swelling as he realizes that his teacher's overwhelming kindness makes it impossible to leave. Carrying a wooden sword, Harvey waves goodbye to his sister, excited to begin his training at the headquarters. A chibi red-haired knight celebrates meeting her recruitment goals, while Chibi Ram looks on with a skeptical expression. Harvey promises to maintain the household chores, while Nielis secretly plans to build a teleportation array for his commute. The red-haired knight offers to set up a village teleportation array, leaving a wide-eyed Nielis completely stunned by the convenience. Emily marvels at the advanced magic apparatuses within the Order, comparing them favorably to the incredible creations of Miss Nielis. Leading the group through the library, the knight explains that the Order's rapid progress is thanks to their head of magic. The knight discusses the complications of Heimdall's strict laws, noting that rigid enforcement is starting to cause societal problems. Illustrations depict a past where survival meant petty crime, leading to a society where over half the population were criminals. Chibi Knight sweats while explaining that locking everyone up is too expensive and would leave the town completely empty. With a mischievous wink and a raised finger, the red-haired knight reveals that the Order has devised a clever solution. A soft thump sounding echoes as the knight explains the development of a magic apparatus that can alter time perception. The knight clarifies that criminals will feel months of punishment in days, ensuring justice is served without ruining society's labor force.
As the knight seeks validation for the plan, Nielis listens in deep thought, her gaze fixed on the revolutionary magic concept.
Internal narration reveals that Nielis once experimented with alchemy and eternal magic to create an apparatus that alters time's flow. Contemplating the familiar magic, Nielis realizes the current research feels like a direct remnant from her own ancient past.
Walking down the hallway, Nielis experiences a sudden realization as she begins to suspect the true identity of the magic chief.
The red-haired knight calls out to the chief, who comically falls off a high ladder in the background. Chaos erupts with a thunk, bam, and boom sounding as books and mugs fly everywhere, shocking Nielis and her companions. Nielis scolds the clumsy head of magic for her recklessness, urging her to let assistants handle the heavy lifting. Nielis emphasizes that the Order cannot afford to lose such a vital asset to a minor accident in the library.
A dramatic close-up of Nielis's eye punctuates the official introduction of the head of the Magic Creation Division.
Memories flash back to a younger Nielis and a girl engaging in explosive alchemy experiments and a desperate rescue.
The young and cheerful head of magic is revealed as Makara Simons, sitting happily amidst a mountain of books. Emily is shocked by the young age of the chief, while the knight helps a clumsy Makara to her feet. Ram questions the fairness of the hierarchy, feeling it is a waste for the legendary Nielis to work under someone younger. Tears suddenly well up in Nielis's eyes, causing Ram to recoil and wide-eyed confusion and immediate alarm.
The group panics, wondering if Nielis is crying because she misses Harvey, while Ram frantically tries to fix the situation.
Emily delivers a swift and comical slap to Ram, punishment for his insensitive assumptions about Nasili's emotional state.
Leaning in, Emily whispers to a confused Ram that Nielis has a unique body that cries whenever she witnesses something sad.
The children watch Nielis with mixed expressions of awe and concern as the powerful mage processes her overwhelming emotions. Crying with a gentle smile, Nielis realizes that for the first time in centuries, her tears are not born of loneliness. Reflected in her silhouette, the narrative acknowledges her self-sacrifice and her enduring desire to save those she lost long ago. A soft and peaceful expression settles on Nielis's face, her heart finally finding a moment of connection in this new world. Makara beams with joy as she clutches her books, unaware of the deep impact her presence has on the legendary Nielis.